following program is available in high definition on Channel 700. This program is designed and produced by the community with the support of TV Cogeco.
Hello and welcome to Oakville Matters. This is the truly local television show on Cogeco Channel 23 and higher. I think we have another channel up high in the high definition area, 700 it might be. Look for us there. And this is a program that looks at the things that matter to Oakville. One of the things that matters the most to a town like Oakville with all our kids is keeping our kids safe. And today, to help us talk about that, we have Sue Perry from SOS for Kids. And we have Mark Terrazzo from the Halton Regional Police Service, and we have Catherine Dietzick from the YMCA. And all of these folks, and many more, are concerned with keeping our kids busy and safe while they're being busy. Sue, how did you and your group start? What made you get into this?
So my business partner, Velma Gannasini, and I, we recognized that there was a need for comprehensive and engaging education programs for kids to help prepare them to stay home alone. So there were a number of products out there in the market, and we looked at all of them and we realized that we're not reaching the kids. The kids are sitting there, they're yawning all day, they walk out. So we developed some really interactive and engaging tools, some videos, some digital media, and we bring them together to teach them how to prepare to stay home on their own, how to recognize and how to prevent accidents. So
I remember so many years ago, I don't want to say how long it was, but it was a really long time ago when I was a young filmmaker. I met some moms who wanted to make a film about how kids could be home alone safe, and they called it, they were in Toronto and they called it Latchkey Kids, and they had a program like yours. I have no idea what became of them, but it's interesting to me the generational renewal and the constant need for it, which I imagine has gotten greater over the last 40 years. I told you how long ago it was.
It has, and you know, I'd be really interested to see the footage that they developed, but one of the key components of our program is we actually filmed a 6-minute video where we follow a kid home from school and we go through all the perils and pitfalls of what could happen to a kid who's home on his own, and it's really an engaging way for the kids to see what could happen to them and to make them think about, well, how would I handle this and how would I handle that? The video itself is, like I said, just 6 minutes long, but we play a bit, we stop, we learn, we play a bit of the video, we stop and we learn. And we find that children, if they can see something happening and they can visualize it, they can actually understand it better when they're in that same similar situation. One of the really cool things about using this type of way to deliver our education is that the kids are telling us what they should be doing, not the other way around. And as you know, as a dad of 3 kids, anything that you tell your kids to do, they're not necessarily going to listen to. But if they tell you this is how it should go, then they buy into it.
So you turn the kid into the parent.
Absolutely.
So now, Mark, the Halton Regional Police Service is the proud owner of the title of the police service for the safest community in Canada. I would argue that since Canada is the safest country in the world, therefore safest community in the world. And activities like Sue's and activities like the YMCA and yours are what keep us safe, is why we keep you at work instead of saying, oh, there's nothing for you to do. And I should add, just because we're the safest doesn't mean we don't have crime, we don't have threats. We do, and any is too many in the view of the police board and the police force. Why don't you give us a top-level rundown of the different approaches of the police to children's safety, ranging from the youngest to the oldest?
Okay, so I come from the Community Mobilization Bureau, and basically what that is we're the first responders, the Halton Police, to any sort of incident. People call us when they need help. And we recognize that we're not always the best agency that can help solve a problem. So we like to work with our partners. And in community mobilization, we'll analyze those community concerns that we have and we'll liaise with our partners and help to solve that problem. And if it's our concern, then we have different units that can deal with that. So in community mobilization, we have what's called our education services officers, and they deal with youngsters in grade school, and they teach the Bravo program, which is a progression from the DARE program that we used to teach. And it teaches building respect, attitudes, and values towards others. So they talk about peer pressure, they talk about alcohol and marijuana use, they talk about bullying, they talk about internet safety. As the kids progress and they get a little bit older, they go into the high school program. And in high school, we have high school liaison officers. And those officers are there to, again, ensure that kids have a safe learning environment and to deal with any problems that arise in the schools. And then if they find a problem, again, we'll either try and help resolve that problem or speak to our community partners to address it.
So how young a child would we deal with through the police? Would we, the Children's Safety Village, for example, that we have near the police headquarters, who does that work with?
We start at the Safety Village as early as kindergarten. We bring in kids and they get to walk around the Safety Village, which is about 1.5 acre property, and it's built up like a small city, and they get to learn about road safety, so how to cross the road safely, what to do when they see train tracks, the stop, walk symbols, all that kind of stuff.
Do they get to drive the little cars?
In grade 2. They come back in grade 2.
You graduate to drive
They
the cars?
graduate, that's right. We take it sideways. They go from walking to driving, and then in grade 3 they go back to cycling.
Okay, all right. Now, Kathy, at the Y, you deal with a huge range of kids as well, and I imagine that you've got a lot of concerns, like around children's safety.
Absolutely.
Give us an idea of the spectrum of those concerns.
Absolutely. So at the YMCA, as you mentioned, we deal with a lot of different kids, and we deal with thousands of kids that are coming into us within each day. So we have programs that we run. We actually run SOS for Kids out of the YMCA, as well as they run out of other organizations as well. We partner with the Halton Police Services as well as a bunch of other partners. But a lot of what we're noticing is these kids are so well educated through programs such as SOS for Kids and Halton Regional Police and other programs that are out there. Our concern is bringing them in and giving them an inclusive atmosphere, because what we're finding is that they're very well educated, but it's now the emotion side of it. They're doing things based on emotion and based on a sense of belonging, and we want to give them a place where they can belong, so they can use their knowledge.
So, all three of you, don't you find that as parents and as let me call you public servants, small p, small s for a second, the challenge with kids is to teach them to socialize and behave with others, and that seems to be a very uneven process through the years. Like any given age group, any given group of kids, you've got some with higher skills and lower skills, and we're all working to try to up their skills. Mm-hmm. So home alone type of help is an obvious one. What else do you do with SOS for Kids?
In answer to your first question, within our programs, exactly what you're saying, we see a full range of children, and their age doesn't necessarily indicate that they're all on the same level, and so they don't always get along, right? So one of our key messages during our programming is collaboration, to get along and to work together and to get through these issues and these things that they go through every single day. We do offer a new program for younger children, children 7 to 9 years old, called My Safe Life, Personal Safety for Kids. And that program talks to children who are not ready to stay home on their own, obviously, but teaches them how to begin to recognize tricky people. We teach them a lot about online safety, accident prevention, teaching them to be aware and to be alert and to recognize when something isn't quite right. We teach them about following their instincts and trusting their instincts. And then the biggest message of all is if you have any questions or if you have any concerns, you're scared of anything, talk to an adult in charge.
So call Mark.
Call Mark, yes.
So Kathy, in the minor sports clubs and associations of Oakville, there are programs. Well, one of them is called Speak Up, and it's for adults who work with kids, coach or manage or convene. And the idea behind that is, if you see anything that you raises your suspicions, you mustn't wait for the suspicions to be confirmed. You should speak up immediately, and there's other layers of protection to protect the kids where an adult is not allowed to be alone with the team or the kids. You have to have a backup, you have to have another adult.
Absolutely.
At the Y, what kind of programs do you have of this nature, if any?
So in terms of our actual volunteer and staff, we have something called our child protection policy. So something that comes in where each of our staff and volunteer go through a mandatory training that ensures that that they have a criminal reference check, that they have gone through our policy so that they know exactly as soon as something is said by a child or as soon as there is any suspicion whatsoever, we have a policy in place that they must follow to keep all of the children safe. So that would be our program for adults. In terms of children, what we also do is within every single one of our programs, we infiltrate the idea of safety and of emotional safety, make sure that we're making connections with the children and front load everything with, if you are feeling in any way, shape, or form unsafe in a situation, even if it's outside of the YMCA, giving them a safe person to talk to.
Okay, so Mark, why don't you give us an idea of how the community mobilization program is meant to work and how it's evolving? Because I see it interconnecting with both the Y and with SOS for Kids down the road if we aren't already.
Yep. So we have a regional community mobilization bureau. They work out of headquarters, and then each district has one. And one of the big components of our community mobilization bureau is our command team. So we have officers that sit on a command table with other various partners, Halton Housing, Halton CAS, the Halton Healthcare, the YMCA. And each partner will bring an issue to the table that they might have, and then we'll find that best partner agency to help solve that problem.
And to understand a command table, can we hear it maybe as a help table or
yeah, absolutely.
a
help
cooperation table?
Yeah, some people call it the hub. Basically, a lot of these agencies will bring their problems forward, and we'll find out who that best agency is that can help solve that problem or might be a collaboration of agencies to help solve that problem.
And is one of our goals to get a better helper than us, the police?
Sometimes we might be the helper. So other agencies might come to us and say, can you help us with that? And we might be that best agency. And sometimes it might not be us. So an issue, let's say, with bullying that doesn't involve violence, it might not necessarily be a police issue, but it might be something that we can solve with the YMCA. Rather than having kids with no activities to do, we'll put them in some activities to get them away from bullying and get them participating.
So where intervention is needed, you try to identify who the best intervener is.
Absolutely.
And it's pretty new. Do we know yet whether it's any good or that it works?
It's actually been very successful. We based our command table on some other jurisdictions that had a command table set up before us, and they've had great success. We started in Milton, I believe it was 2 years ago, and in Oakville we started last year. And so this year is really the first year that everybody's live, everybody's been going. We've had a year of experience behind us, and we've seen some great success with it, and it's helped reduce our returns to go and see people over and over again. It's helped reduce that greatly.
So the phrase frequent flyer has been heard around the police headquarters. So if it reduces frequent flyers, that's probably good. In fact, I know the province of Ontario is now discussing changing the Police Service Act to basically require everybody to do this. So we're pioneers then, I guess.
I think so.
And instead of telling us to stop, they're telling everybody else to start. So it must be a good thing.
It is. You're going to see community mobilization engagement is going to be the next greatest thing in all police services. It used to be a lot about community policing. We've built on that, and now here we are today with the community mobilization engagement.
We talk about having very low crime in Halton and Oakville. But how safe are our kids specifically as a segment? Do we get a lot of, or any? I mean, what happens there? Do any of you know of any? It's been a long time since I can remember a child having a problem. But as a mayor, I don't necessarily see everything you see.
I think obviously we can't be naive. There are issues that involve children. But we don't have major issues. I mean, you don't hear major issues that happen in the newspaper that happen in Oakville, and I think that goes to speak to what we do as a whole to address those issues. And when small issues pop up, we try and get on them as quickly as possible to solve them and prevent them from escalating into bigger issues.
Now, Kathy, does the Y have a safety record that gives us confidence in the Y? I mean, what happens there?
In terms of, again, I would speak to our child protection policy. So we take a look at making sure that we have a policy in place that every single child feels safe. In terms of a record itself, to my knowledge, we don't have a record, but I'm in agreement with Mark. I've never personally, I've never seen any major issues with children, and any of the issues that we do deal with on a day-to-day basis usually end up being more of the emotional, again, not feeling a sense of belonging, and that's where our organizations come in and give them more of a sense of a community. And as soon as they start to feel that sense of community, we see their behaviors die down, and we see them engaging in more safe behaviors.
So the high level of trust that I see in the Y throughout our community is earned by, I think, a pretty good safety record. I've just, in my life, I've never heard of a child safety problem at the Y.
No, we're very, we make sure that we all keep our policies in place, and we know that we all are very well equipped for handling children and dealing with children and making sure that we're developing those connections with the children. So we have a supervision policy, so we know that we always have our eyes on them. And in terms of physical safety and in terms of emotional safety, again, developing those relationships so they feel safe to come to us in those situations.
Well, Sue, when I was a young father with my precious firstborn daughter, eventually we had 3 kids, and maybe I got a little better about it, but I was very worried that she would break. And I remember at one of our first infant checkups, our pediatrician thought that I was being way too worried about the fragility of my daughter. And now my pediatrician had 8 kids, so he had a different attitude maybe than I with only 1.
Right.
But he looked at me and he said, "They heal, you know." Now, and I tell the story to set up that in our town, I perceive that we have parents who are having their kids in organized programs like the Y and minor sports and arts and culture and dance and you name it, and they're keeping their kids busy, they're programming them, and I perceive that we have what some people call free-range kids, and home alone programs they sound almost like they might work for the free-range kids. And maybe there's a third group, and I probably live in that group, which is trying to be this and sometimes being that.
I think we both live in that group, and I agree with you totally. I think, you know, if you're going to cover your children in bubble wrap, they're going to grow up and they're going to go out into the world and they're going to free fall because they're used to having you there protecting them the whole time. And if you let your children become free range, maybe that's not the best way to go either, because they're going to get into mischief. And I think taking that road down the middle of a little bit of keeping an eye on them and giving them a little bit of freedom is maybe a great way to go. The Home Alone program, and so on the surface, some people think, yeah, put your kid into the class so that they can be a free-range child, and that's not necessarily the case. I think a lot of the parents who send their kids to our classes are trying to prepare and set up their children for success and give them the best start possible. And it's scary. Even, you know, when I'm home in the middle of the night all by myself and I hear a noise, my first impulse is, oh my gosh, is somebody breaking into my house? When we teach these classes, that's our kids' greatest fear. I'll ask them, I'll say, what is the thing that you're most afraid of when you're home alone? And they say that somebody's going to break into my house. Now, as Mark was saying, we live in a pretty safe community, and that realization is pretty small, but it's a real fear for them. Part of our intention in the program, too, is to make them aware that there's other things that they need to know, and there's other things that they should be maybe a little fearful of. And I think one of the biggest turns or the biggest trends in parenting nowadays is keep your kids inside. Keep them inside, lock the door, and they'll be safe. Now, you know what the next problem is. If they're inside and they're indoors and they're there by themselves, what are they doing? They're online. So one of the big components of our programming is online safety. Just because your child's in the house and alone doesn't mean that they are truly alone. And so we teach them about cyber predators in child-friendly language. And that's the thing. We don't want to scare kids. We just want to make them aware. But we teach them how vulnerable they are and how much people can find out about them with very little information.
Yeah, it's this indoor-outdoor thing is very interesting to me. We moved into a neighborhood 10 years ago where all the kids had almost finished growing up, and eventually, soon after we moved there, it was it felt like a childless neighborhood.
Yeah.
And now, 10 years later, the neighborhood is like completely turned over. It's full of kids, like I guess 6 to 11 years of age, and they're out on the street playing all the time.
Isn't it wonderful?
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a surprise how fast a neighborhood can turn over. Sometimes I wonder, do the planners in my town planning department really understand how neighborhoods turn over? Or you know how the school board likes to close schools?
Yes.
Maybe they should be more patient. I'm not sure. But the whole thing with the kids is, it seems to me what you were saying and what each of you has been saying is, it's a little bit like test and develop trust, and then test again and develop trust. Is that Mark? Do you have kids of your own?
First one's coming in April, so we'll find out how I do in April.
Oh, so you'll be able to apply all of these things.
That's right.
Well, I'll volunteer a story on myself. When one of my daughters was in puberty and life was somewhat challenging around my house, I went and I hired a family counselor to help me figure out how to be a better dad. And actually, when my daughter found out that I was going to do that, she wanted to come, and I said, "Get your own. this one's for me." And this woman told me the most amazing thing. She said that until they're 7, kids are learning their values from you. And then she looked at me in this funny way, and she said, "So if your values are any good," and then she looked at me even funnier and she said, "and if you were even around for them to see your values," and they learn your values from how you behave, not from what you say. So it's like a triple whammy of statements from this counselor. She said, "Then it's all going to be fine. And if your values aren't any good, or you weren't there to demonstrate them, there's nothing you can do about it. So either way, relax." So I did relax, and my daughter still thinks that family counselor was the best family counselor she never had to go to. But I guess, you know, as mayor, I visit the schools a lot. The 10-year-olds have civics classes, and they all want the mayor to come and tell them what the mayor does and what the council does. The kids at the age of 10 really seem to be great. I always come back, you know, very confident about the future of the country when I see what we have by way of 10-year-olds. And I also see the 15-year-olds, because they also do civics. And by the time they get to be 15, they're a little bit more, I don't know, withdrawn, cynical. And I wonder, in 5 years, how do you go from that to that? And so I've taken to telling the 10-year-olds what the 15-year-olds that I've seen are like, and saying, "Please don't be like that."
And that's interesting, Rob, because I have a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old, so I'm there right now.
So
I have both of them.
Do you engage the 10-year-old to help bring the 15-year-old back to full engagement with life? Or is the 15-year-old dragging the 10-year-old into cynicism?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, yeah. And then I've got a 13-year-old in the middle, and she tampers everything down, so that's cool.
The perfect solution.
Yes.
See, I think we're on this, well, we have a Together as Girls program that we run that's all about the giving girls a safe place to kind of talk about the issues that are happening within their society or within their world today. And that's for a 10 to 13 age range. And then we also have a Together as Girls Leaders program, which is meant to mentor, and they have their own curriculum where they speak about things that are happening and give a place of emotional safety as well as physical safety. But we're noticing the same thing, that as the 15-year-olds are supposed to be mentoring the 10-year-olds, you almost see a little reverse in terms of them re-engaging them. So it's great.
So Mark, when you hear these things, as a future young dad, how does it strike you?
You know what? I'm confident. We live in a very safe area. I've got more knowledge on street-proofing kids and internet safety and anything that I can possibly fathom. And I think the most important thing is, when you're raising your kids, is to educate them on these concerns that are out there. pick the way that you want to do it. They don't have to know everything, but you need to educate your kids on what is the potential dangers out there, and that way they have an understanding of what they need to be careful for. If you hide all these dangers from your kids and they don't know anything about it, they're going to be very naive to what could happen to them, and they might find themselves in trouble. When we teach internet safety and street-proofing children, you tell your kids what the dangers are of the internet if they're doing things that are wrong, and what could happen to them, and show them the right way to do things, and supervise them while they're doing it until you gain that trust that what they're doing on there is correct. And like you said, let them be, and then test them again later and find out if they're still on board. You know what? I'm very confident. We have enough resources out there that I'm more than happy to be raising my kids here. So.
And I remember when we were raising our kids, we would occasionally have to remind ourselves that our goal was to create adults rather than to lock them into some permanent state of childhood. Now, with one of my children, the jury may still be out on how well we did, but the other two seem to be pretty good.
Are your kids watching this?
Yes.
You know, if my son is watching, I'm probably in trouble.
So something interesting that you said, Mark, is that you plan to educate your child and help him or her. Do we know what it is?
Him.
You hope to help him understand. One of the things that we hear frequently from parents who bring their kids to our program is, you know what, I could tell them all this stuff, but they won't listen to me. They'll listen to you. You're a complete stranger, but they'll take, you're more credible than I am. And it makes us realize that we're a village, and together as a village, we're responsible to raise these children and teach them how to be safe. And every time they hear the message, they hear it in school, when they come to the Safety Village, when they come to the Y, they come to our program, they have Fire Safety Week. And the more they can hear the message delivered from a different person or a different organization, as long as we're united in the same message, which I believe we are, the better off our children are going to be. I think that's how we're going to get them to really understand the safety messages.
Sue, how do people reach you if they would like to avail themselves of some of the various help that you offer?
They could visit our website, www.safetycoursesforkids.com. They can call us. Our number is 905-582-8059. I'm very active in the community, so I am one of those hockey moms, and I'm a cheer mom, and so if you see me out in the community, I'm happy to stop and talk to anybody who wants to know about our programs.
Well, with an internet address like that, you could go international. Because who doesn't want safety courses for kids?
That's right. And in fact, our goal is to go international. We have taken our program across Canada, and we have some clients, including St. John's, Newfoundland, the city of St. John's, Newfoundland. We have clients, I think, in every province across the country, and a couple of clients in the States already. So,
well, that's really great. I want to thank all three of you for helping us discuss this topic today. I want to urge everyone who's watching to enjoy the fact that it takes a village to raise a child, and Oakville is a city that calls itself a town and acts like a village, and you've never seen it on better display than here. This is only a small section of the many groups that are out there to help raise kids in Oakville. And I hope you'll join us again on the next Oakville Matters.